Well, welcome to the Inspiration Incubator, everyone. I'm your host, Leona Baker, and I'm here with Pastor Troy and Pastor Trina. And I tell you, you are in for a treat. But before we jump in, I connected through Pastor Troy and Pastor Trina years ago, actually, before Pastor Trina, I believe, came on the scene, because Pastor Troy and I went to Overbrook High School. If you don't know about Overbrook High School, go look us up, okay? So I know I had plenty of Overbrook Panthers listening and watching, and I know you guys are going to be inspired and be empowered by this power couple today. So with that being said, how y'all doing?
We're doing good. Glad to be here with you.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, absolutely. When I think of a dynamic duo, whether it's ups, downs, highs, lows, and in between, that's you two. Now, how long have y'all been married?
I'm gonna let you.
Come on, Pastor Trina.
24 years.
Come on, somebody, because I knew on the timeline it was over 20, but I said, I'm going to let them tell you better than me.
No,
so I'm going to start, but come on now. Before we jump into how they met and did all of that, I'm gonna dig deep a little bit with them individually leading up to that. So Pastor, Troy, let's get into, growing up, an Overbrook Panther, and then leading into meeting Pastor Trina.
Well, again, thank you for having us. We're very excited about being here. As long as I've known you, you've been a powerful individual. The quiet storm, I want to call it.
Thank you. Yeah.
You knew how to make noise at the right time, and you were a great student, and everybody that knows you speaks very, very highly of you as well as I do. So I'm just glad to be here, glad to be a part of this. And I'm glad you're a Panther. She went to Lamberton, so we're going to excuse that for the moment. But
that's all good.
Overbrook High School is one of the greatest schools in the land. I was really excited to even now, I connect with all of my former classmates. Everybody's doing amazing. Everybody's doing great. They look well.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a blessing to have such great friends that I still have even to this day from high school. Playing football, playing basketball. Some people don't know this, but I played on the tennis team too. Mr. Ford was my tennis coach.
Get out.
I kept that kind of secret. I didn't want anybody to know about that, but I played tennis school. And I just really had a great career in high school. Made a lot of great friends, did a lot of great things. And carry over a lot of the things that I learned at Overbrook High School from the teachers and my classmates into my life as an adult.
Yes.
Turned around and went to Kutztown University to play football. That didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, and ended up at Westchester University taking some classes and met Pastor Trina there. Well, kind of re-met her there.
I know that's right.
And we had met her there. We had known each other from the neighborhood, and wound up really connecting while I was at Westchester University. And then we wound up taking it to the next level. I'll tell the story. She'll tell it her way.
Yeah.
We happened to be, I was at a fraternity party with Raleigh Russell and a couple of my other friends from Overbrook High School. And she was dancing with this guy on the dance floor, and he was dancing corny, and she was dancing decent. So I decided to to her and get in her ear, and Leona, I said, listen, that dude don't know what to do with you. Dancing with that dude, come on over here.
Come on now.
Sure enough. She was swooning and smiling and stuff. And then the next thing you know, we wound up dancing together, and it was love at first sight. And we've been together ever since. So it's been incredible. She's an incredible woman, incredible mother, incredible wife, incredible business owner, and an incredible woman. So I'm just glad to have her in my life. Really excited.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Okay, now, Pastor Trina, your turn. So y'all was at the party, and what now?
We were at the party, and he said it right this time. It's a story back when we were in high school that we always have controversy over. I was down on South Street. South Street was the place to be. And yes. I had got my dad's friend let him use this car. And so I was so excited about it. It was a Honda Accord. It was real dope and everything like that.
Yes.
So, on South Street. And so he always tells the story that I was like, Troy, all out the window, right? Now, I was excited to let everybody know I was down there, but I'm not going to play myself like that, screaming and hollering for the dude. So my girlfriend was there, his friends were there, and so, his version is that I was screaming and hollering. My version is that I played real cool, put the window down, and was like, what's up, Troy? That's like, yeah, but we reintroduced each other back to each other in Westchester, and so that was amazing. I saw him. He to me didn't change from when I knew him in high school. I didn't really know him. You would see him around the way. We would speak to each other. We had friends in common, like that. But to me, he never changed, and I was just amazed by him. And I was just like, whatever this is, I'm gonna let it ride out, let it play out. I have been with some other guys, tired of the foolishness. I have been saying, praying for it. I want somebody that's going to be serious. I love my parents' marriage. My mom and dad, they'll be married for 47 years coming
Beautiful.
up. And so I just wanted to have a marriage like that, find somebody that was serious, that I could spend the rest of my life with. And so I was tired of the games, tired of foolishness. So when he came on the scene, I was just like, Lord, if this is it, then I'll just follow the steps. And, I've been blessed and haven't had any regrets from that decision.
She prays she wanted a man like her father. So me and her father are born on the same day.
What? Get out of here. I'm not surprised because they say we marry our daddies. That's what they say. So that's just awesome. I love to hear, the love stories and to hear it from people directly as opposed to third person. It's just awesome to know that you guys connected. Now in that walk, at some point, Pastor Troy, you realized that your walk was a little higher in terms of being held to accountability with teaching, training, people as it relates to God's word, to helping to heal hearts and pouring resources into people. How did you get to that place in your life where you knew that there was a calling a little higher?
Well, if you let my mother tell it, she'll say from the womb the Lord spoke and said that I was going to be a preacher. So
I believe your mother.
Yeah, all three of my brothers are preachers extraordinary. We're all working in ministry together. My brother's a minister in my church. I ordained and licensed him into my church. So I knew kind of early on in our marriage. So Pastor Trina is my second wife because I was married before, right out of high school. And
right.
I went through some difficulty. Life wasn't perfect. The relationship wasn't perfect. The young lady and I got married too young. And somewhere along that line, I realized that people don't mess up. Sometimes you just make decisions as a youth that you sometimes can't overcome.
Right.
Two great people got together, wasn't good for each other at that time. And through that process of going through struggles, I realized that I needed a closer walk with God. I was dealing with a whole lot of things. I actually, if I tell the truth, I was standing on 15th and Market, down by the clothespin, down on the L platform, ready to jump.
Come on, somebody. That's the truth.
But my life was over. And I said, Lord, if you don't do something, if you don't stop me, I'm jumping today. And this woman walked up to me and said, aren't you that guy that sing at that church down on 15th from Poplar? She said, just keep on singing, just keep on praising, because every time I hear you sing, God blesses my life. And at that moment, I realized that was God telling me to back up from that yellow line and get away from that train.
Come on.
I ran up the steps. I'm standing at the clothespin, and I realized, I didn't have another token. That I was going to walk home. And I started walking from 15th and Market to Broad and Patterson. And on my walk, it started raining. So I'm getting drenched, and I realized that the Lord was cleansing my heart, cleansing my mind.
Come on.
Taking away pain that I had felt over years and years. And that day I got on the floor at my apartment, and I said to the Lord, Lord, I know there's no church here, no preacher here, but my mom said, if I call on you, that you'd save me, that you changed my life. And I said, Lord, if you fix what I'm going through right now, I'll give you the rest of my life for my life. And that's exactly what happened. And from that day forward, the Lord started transforming me and changing me, all the way to the point when we got married. The Lord called me. I laid out on the floor and he said, lovest thou me more than these? Feed my sheep. Lovest thou me more than these? Then feed my sheep. Lovest thou me more than these? Then feed my lambs. And from that prayer, from that conversation, I dedicated my life to the Lord. I didn't know what that meant at that time. I didn't know if that was pastoring or just being a person that loved the Lord and worked in the church and tried to help other people get saved. And it turned into this story of development, learning, training, and eventually becoming a pastor for about 20 years. It'll be 20 years this year now. We'll be pastoring together.
When I tell you That is a powerful testimony. And I know somebody will be set free today from hearing that. Because when people see people such as yourself, who God has ordained and uplifted and, commanded, and it just looking just, y'all are just amazing as a power couple. People look at your photos and y'all just enjoying life and living life, but they don't see necessarily the other side. They don't see the other side of the pain.
Yeah.
And so for somebody who's going through today, I'm sure that they're going to hear that and they're going to keep going. They're going to keep going. And I'm just so touched and I'm just honored that you would share that on my platform today. That's just a blessing to be able to touch someone, to help pull them back out of that dark place where they're at. So thank you, which kind of leads me into and transitioning into, a testimony that Pastor Trina has. Because for some of you all, y'all see this beautiful, intelligent, amazing woman. If you don't have the privilege of looking at her photos, if you're not privy to that, then you don't really get a chance to see her up close and personal. So I'll let her share a little bit about one of her testimonials as it relates to her transformation. That has just been amazing.
Yeah, so like you said, you see me now, but it's been a journey, and I was relatively a healthy person. We got married, and I think my first issue started right after I had my son. I had an infection that started immediately, and they gave me medicine for it. I was in and out the hospital for like almost 5 months, and they could not stop me from bleeding. They couldn't find the infection. They didn't know what was going on. I would go in the hospital. I would stay there for a couple of weeks. They sent me home with medicine. The day I stopped the medicine, the infection would start back up. They had to rush me back to the hospital. That went on for like 4 different times over a 5-month span. And it was just like, I'm a brand new wife, brand new mother, trying to serve the Lord, trying to find destiny and purpose. And it just felt like all these roadblocks were happening. And so in the beginning, it was like, okay, God, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna believe you. I have a man of God that prays over me. My family prays for me. I'm gonna be fine. And then we had little issues with my son and my daughter, in and out the hospital. It was just like trial after trial. And then after time, I started recognizing that I had some issues going on with me with fibroids and different things with bleeding issues. And they found out that I had PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. And so basically it's a hormonal issue where you store fat, you can't burn fat. It just has a lot of different other things. Your ovaries are filled with cysts, pain problems, issues. And I dealt with that. I didn't know what was going on. They diagnosed me in 2009. And I dealt with that. They put me on a medicine called metformin. A lot of people take it for diabetes. I didn't have diabetes, but it would regulate and keep me kind of balanced somewhat. But I still had the issues. I would go in and out the hospital. Pain would flare up just at any time. Medicine over medicine would cause issues and problems. I started having issues with walking. I started having issues with just balance and stability. And they were, it was just the medicines conflicting with each other. And so I just kept trusting God, believing God. And then my son got diagnosed with IBD, which is irritable bowel disorder. And so he was admitted to the hospital. It was like he was bleeding. It was just like always a blood issue, right? The blood is there covering us, but the enemy was attacking our blood. Thank God we have covering us. But my son was admitted to the hospital. They were talking about 7 or 8 surgeries he was going to have to go through. And, at the time he might have been like 12 or 11 or 12. And it was just like, we stayed at camp. We were there for like months on hand, missing Christmas and all of that. And his last time he went to the hospital, I ended up falling a month after he got diagnosed. Oh my God. I had an injury to my knees. And that was after a car accident that caused me had problems with my knees, where I was on a cane and broke my ankle. And it just seemed like the devil was ready to attack. And I just kept saying, I don't care how much you attack me. I'm just going to serve God, believe God, love God. We're pastoring. We got a church that we're trying to develop. And I'm just strong, believing God's going to do it. And so I got healed from the car accident. I was back walking, back in my high heels. Anybody know me? I love the 6-inch heels. I was back in my high heels. And then it seems like as soon as I got the diagnosis that you're okay, my son got diagnosed with IBD. 2012 in December. That February 2013, I fell at a hotel doing a presentation. It was amazing with my business, but here come the enemy. Like, I can't let them go too far. I gotta stop them. They're serving God. People are seeing, getting motivated and inspired. And so I fell and broke my ankle and ended up having what they thought at the time was torn meniscus in my knees. They were bruised. I was on crutches. It was just a whole lot. And then long story short, it ended up being that my meniscus weren't just torn, my knees were blown, and I had bone issues, so they needed to be replaced. And so of course I kept believing, you know, I'm not going to get no surgeries. They kept saying you're too young to get it right now. We usually like to wait till people are like 50. And so, you know, I just kept going, kept pressing, and of course it got worse over time. And my knees began to deform to the point where I couldn't walk. I was bedridden for a while, and, you know, had to do the wheelchair, the walker. It was all, you know, progression, just believing God, serving God. And it was just, it was crazy. And at that point, the PCOS went crazy. So my weight gain was out of this world. And so they were like, by the time they realized you need the surgery, it was like, but you got to lose 50 pounds. But you have a hormonal issue that won't let you lose 50 pounds.
My God.
So we tried everything, nutritionists, different programs. I mean, it was just, the enemy was trying to attack me in my emotions and my faith, but we just kept praying, kept believing God, kept prophesying, you're going to be fine. So, you know, you're going to get out of this. This too shall pass. And, you know, about 8 years later, God just made it so that, you know, I was able to, first it was an insurance thing, and we believed God. My husband was ready to put this house up for mortgage, so that we can get this $30,000 surgery for me to get the weight loss surgery, because our insurance didn't cover it. And so God just made a way. At first, the job he started working along with pastoring so that I could get the medical insurance. As soon as we had everything solidified, he gets laid off. And so I'm just saying all of this to let you know that God is able. And so we were willing to, this insurance meant that we still was going to pay like $12,000, not $30,000, but like $12,000 we could break up over time to get the surgery. Well, when he got laid off, because of the pandemic, because he was laid off, I was able to get insurance through a program that paid for everything. We didn't have to
Come on, somebody.
Surgery. And so that was my first transformation, where I was able to lose, at this point, I've lost about 85 pounds. It's been about a year. It was October of 2020 that I had the surgery. And so that was the first thing, to get the weight off. And, you know, you just start seeing things happen and start feeling better. They started taking me off certain medications, blood pressure medicine. I was off of that. You know, things start turning around, but I still had the issues with my knees. And so just March of 2021, I was able to get double knee surgery. And so they replaced my knees. And when they did that, you know, that was one of the hardest surgeries I had to go through. But God was there. And some people have been able to see, you know, the videos of the transformations. You know, you go and
it's so inspiring.
It was nothing. It was nobody but God, and the prayers of that avail of much. People were praying for me because the enemy was not happy. He was trying to kill me in the hospital. You know, there was issues with the medicines they had me on. I couldn't breathe. I was delusional, and they were like, we got to get you off of this because it's suppressing your respiratory system. You know, your pressure is dropping too low. I had blood clots. It was just a whole bunch of stuff, but the enemy could not win. And so my knees are repaired. I feel 150 times better. I'm walking. I'm back in my heels.
Preaching again.
I'm preaching.
Now.
Doing my business again. You know, all of that because God is faithful, and He gave us the victory.
Amen. Glory to God.
Yes.
Oh, my Lord. When I tell you, I said to myself, Pastor Trina is a strong woman. This woman, honey, when I tell you, when they say Pastor Trina, you earned that in this life and the next. Because it takes a special kind of woman to just pray her way through and to press down, to know who you are, show the world what you're going through, and say, watch my God work. And that is what you did. You handled that flawlessly. I mean, to see you on that bed, girl, I was praying, like, Lord, please help her get through it. Yes. And, you know, if anyone's ever had surgery, and I have, you know, it's nothing to dance around. Right? Because anytime you go under, you don't have to come back.
That's right. That's right.
You don't have to come back. That in itself is a miracle, you know. Oh my goodness. So I just thank you so much, Pastor Trina, for sharing, you know, that testimony. It's just amazing to see how far you have come. How did you know that you were going to get to that next level of being, Pastor Trina, of you're answering God's call and actually follow through with it. Because when God calls you, it can be intimidating. You might be like, well, I don't know, that level of accountability is a bit much.
Right.
What was it that when you said, you know what, I hear you, Lord, I'm gonna be obedient and I'm ready.
So since a child, my family has been very spiritual. I say all the time to Pastor Troy, I wasn't born on a pew. I was a little higher than the CMEs, Christmas, Mother Day, and Easter church goers. Another Sunday, my dad used to play baseball and stuff like that. So we would go to church every now and again for special things, everything like that. So when I got with him, I knew God. I always had a relationship with him. He would talk to me. The prophetic was always on my life. I didn't understand it at that point, but I had a real relationship with him when he would talk to me. And so
Right.
I've always wanted to serve, not just my father, but my spiritual father. And so whatever God would tell me to do, without a question, I'm gonna do it from a young age.
Yeah, come on.
When I got with him, I never knew preaching was on him. I didn't know the side of him in church. I knew him from around the way where I would see him, the cool dude, fly dude. So when he's telling me about God calling him, for me, I'm gonna be honest and I'm real transparent. When I was in college, I had my days, my little saying was high till I died. And so I used to smoke weed, drink, and all of that. And after I was in college, I'm telling you, I had so many things. If I say and tell you everything that happened to me as far as injuries, you'd be like, now, how did this girl make it through? But when I was in college, I broke my ankle. I had to go with a motorized wheelchair at Westchester because I couldn't get around the campus. And so when that happened, I was telling God, I'm tired of this. I don't want to get high no more. I don't want to smoke no more. And so that was part of the testimony of, I'm tired of these guys that aren't good for me. I want what you have for me. So I had already kind of yielded like, God, I'm through with this. I just want to live for you. I want what you have for me. So when I got with him, he looked like fly guy, out doing his thing. So I didn't think the call was on his life. So as God began to reveal it, it was like, I'm pretty sure he probably was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say to her. Is she gonna accept it? But I was just ready for that because that was
Right.
on the inside of me. And so as God began to bring him back, I was already going to church, tithing and sowing. And so I'm thinking this is foreign to him. I know his mom was a preacher, his dad was in the church, but I'm saying as far in the adult realm, this is foreign to him. And he's like, this is what God is saying to me. So it's almost like we both like, yes, finally, we can just be who we are in Christ with each other. And so at first I'm thinking he's the preacher. This is what God is saying to him. No problem, always at my church serving. They would use me to do ministry stuff, to minister one-on-one with different women. So I knew there was something there to work with women, women's ministry, helps ministry, servant ministry. Didn't know all the details. So as God's doing this transformation in him, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pray for you, babe. That's what God said. Absolutely, God. And so he started sharing the vision, really getting me pregnant with the vision and saying what God was saying. And so he's like, God is saying, we're going to pastor. And so first I'm thinking, because, he has a tendency to use the wrong tense, I'll say, because he's so prophetic. He speaks in faith. So he'll be like, yeah, we did this. I'm like, no, we didn't do it. No, we already did it. I'm like, I get it. I get what you're doing. So I'm thinking when he says, he's just saying something down the future, not we pastoring, you pastor and I'm married to you, so I got a pastor. I'm not thinking he's saying you're going to walk in that office. And it's not just explaining it to me. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like Sarah. I don't want to laugh.
Right.
I believe and trust you, but I need God to confirm that. And so as he continued to give me the vision, God began to tell me he was going to use me to minister to women and that we were going to walk alongside each other, and that the same oil that was on him, that he was going to give him the anointing to pour that oil on me.
Come on now.
One flesh. And so the Lord telling me that, I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know what was supposed to go forth. I didn't know all the protocol for church. Because again, I told you, I wasn't like a church baby, so for me, it was just like, let's go. If God said it, we're going to do it. He's going to fill us. He's going to give us the vision. I've never had a problem trusting God. When he says it, I'm doing it. So for me, it was just like, I don't know how this is going to look. I know that when I came into doing ministry, there were plenty of women in ministry. There were not as many co-pastors. There were a lot of teachers, but not a lot of co-pastors. And so I was just trying to say, Lord, show me what that looks like for us, what you want us to do. And so God, throughout that walk, I'm so blessed that we've had the stops with the pastors that we had, Pastor Scott and Lady Scott. They weren't co-pastorship, but they might as well have been. She was first lady, but they did ministry together. And then God took us to Pastor Lewis and Pastor Sylvia Earls, who were co-pastorship. And then lastly, our spiritual father and spiritual mother, Apostle Brian D. Phillips and Pastor Charlene Phillips. So God gave me great examples, but I just gave them a yes. I didn't know how it was going to work. I just said yes.
Wow, that, and that's inspiring because, young girls and women who are listening to your story, they can say, you know what, I'm not going to sit in the background anymore. I'm going to take that step forward and let God use me to accomplish his work here on earth, and that he may be glorified, and also that I may benefit because I'm walking in God's, way for my life. So as we move forward, how, when you accepted God's calling on your life, Pastor Troy, at what point were you like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and pastor this church and take all of this on? And what was that like going through that transition for you? What were some barriers that you overcame, and maybe some things that inspired you along the way?
I was running the other way. I did not want to pastor.
Oh, you got me? Okay, there you go.
I didn't want to pastor anybody. I was running the other way. I was like, I'm good. I was trying to find places to hide in ministry, and we were at the Rock Dream Center at the time with Apostle Phillips, and it was like, I'm on a praise team, we're recording albums, I'm working at the Vanguard group, I'm making good money, I'm getting partnerships. I'm cool right here. I'm cool right here. And he walked up to me one day after we had joined the church and said, so how much longer you gonna be here? Like, the Lord is calling you to pastor, and you're gonna just hide in the background, you're gonna act like you don't know what the Lord said. And I said, I was at the time at Vanguard, which is a Fortune 500 billion dollar company. I was doing a Bible study twice a week in conference rooms on campus, which is kind of unheard of at the time. They just wouldn't let nobody handle Bible study. So we started out, I had like 25, 30 people in a room every Tuesday in Bible study. Then it turned into every Tuesday and Thursday. Then it turned into me going to different campuses and teaching Bible study. Then it turned into me teaching other people how to teach the Bible studies in other campuses. And it just grew and grew and grew. And God was already doing it. I wasn't trying to be anybody's pastor. I wasn't trying to lead in that fashion. Somehow I just found myself at the front of the room all the time. And I was like, Lord, if this is what you want me to be, I'll do what you tell me to do. And we were recording the album. My pastor turned around and said, this is the last day that you'll ever be normal. Your normal's over. And
come on, somebody. That's real.
Normal's over. So I heard him, and I was like, whatever. You know how much money I'm making, Vanguard? I'm cool. Like, I don't want to do that. And sure enough, God started developing it. And then different prophets would come and just continue to prophesy. So our role was a little different because he told us, he said, we're going to plant you. So we started a Bible study in our house with, 4 people? About 5 people. And 4 of them was family.
So one.
What wound up happening was, that Bible study in my house, we had just bought our house, and this is going to be the sanctuary. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. I just got here, And he transformed my living room into the sanctuary. My dining room was my living room. And we literally had curtains up, chairs in there. And that went from 5 people to 25 people sitting in my living room every week. The power of God just falling. We was like, okay, we got to get out of this living room. We can't do this. And then a lady's son who came to one of the Bible studies, who got delivered and got saved, she said, if you got my son walk to Jesus and get saved, you can have our church every week if you want to. So we went into her church in the Yaden area, Darby area, free of charge. She didn't ask us for anything, just said, come on, do Bible. So we did Bible study there. Then we moved to the hotel. My pastor covered us the whole time. And then eventually, I heard the Lord told me to come off my job. So we were doing 6 figures together on the job. And the Lord told me it was time for me to leave. And I said, I did not hear the Lord say that. I said, y'all prophets is lying. Every June, I'm getting a nice payout. We doing great stuff with it. But then when she fell, she wound up leaving the job in 2005. I said, well, that's the Lord wanted her to work ministry full time.
Right.
And then in 2006, the Lord just pretty much visited me while I was praying. I was like, I'm ready for you to go now. And I said, Lord, but what about my health care? What about finance? And what about like, I'm like, what do you want me to do? And then my pastor turned a word to me from Genesis chapter 12. He told, get thee from thy land and from thy kindred and from thy acquaintances and get to the land that I will show thee. Leave your father's house and get to the land that I will show you. And I'll make your name great. And I'll make
Come on, somebody.
Start going into all these different things. And I was like, okay, Lord, I heard that. I heard what you said. I went to another service, the same text, the same scripture. Went to another service, the same text, the same script. And I was like, Lord, okay, let me just yield, just say yes to this. And I went to work with a letter in triplicate to give to my supervisor, my manager, and another group leader. And I told him, I said, the Lord is calling me in a full-time ministry. I said, well, how you gonna do it? You know, what you gonna do for money? And I said, I don't know, but the Lord told me he's gonna take care of all of my needs according to his riches and glory. He's never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread. I'm gonna do exactly what you do. So I did that. And we have not looked back. I left there in 2006. We've been in full-time ministry ever since. And the Lord made a way every time we turned around. The Lord opened up our entrepreneurship. We got our real estate licenses. We were doing Tracy Lynn Jury top sellers in the Pennsylvania area. My wife was the director, ran the whole state of Pennsylvania, and started writing books, started doing coaching. I mean, every time we turned around, God just provided. He just made a way out of no way. Ava was there. And my passion is to see people transform. That's my passion. I live every day to see people's lives change, to see people become better, to see every person that's stuck in a cocoon finally become the butterfly that they were called to be. And I believe that the Lord just called us. We're building arcs. Our mantra is we build arcs. We are actively reproducing the kingdom through acts of responsible kinship, through acts of righteous kindness. We are the vessel that God is using to help save other people. That Noah built an ark for the saving of his house, and there became heir of righteousness. So that we spend our whole life trying to help people find new life. That's what we do. And I realized, someone told me, one of our classmates said, you know, you used to do the same thing on the football field. You've been this person since I've known you, that we always knew. One person I always knew you was going to be some kind of preacher, or motivational speaker or something, because that's just who you've been all our life. And it was a natural transformation to be just a person who wanted to see people get help and transform, to walking in a whole ministry where people get transformed every day, all day long.
Wow. Woo, when I tell you, there were a few things that you said that I want to hit on. The first thing is you said someone came to you and prophesied. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've had people come to me and prophesy. And with the exception of one person, everything that anyone has ever told me has come to pass. Okay. And so you know a prophet by the outcome. Keep living. It's going to happen sooner or later. If it doesn't happen, you know it came from God. If it does, you know that it did. You know, because I had, before I started working with the program with women, I was working at Workforce Solutions, and I had a brother. His name was Christopher, I believe it was. It was Christopher, a Christian. And this particular day, they asked me to come downstairs because I think it was after a holiday, and they wanted me to help with the phones. I had never assisted with the phones. And I'm the kind of person, anybody knows me, if you need me to mop the floor, that's what I will do. I'm just that kind of person. I'm not about, it's not about a title or a position. It's about what needs to be done. So, but it was just so weird because covering the phones, I mean, I had never, ever had anyone ask me to do that. But I needed to be able to be on the phone in order for that man to disrupt me, to give me the prophecy. Because he had to have, he would not have been able to reach me had I been upstairs in my office. He needed to reach me where he could walk up on me and say, excuse me. He was a little nervous, but he said, excuse me, are you a Christian? I said, yes. And he got down on his knee and started prophesying to me about a women's program I was going to create, all kinds of things. And I was trying to take a sticky and hurry up and write it down, because it's not like God doesn't talk to me as well. But when he sends someone and you can feel God's presence, you better listen. You better listen, because that's real. That's a real word over your life. Absolutely. So I just wanted to say, when you said that someone prophesied to you, people who are listening, because everybody that's listening to this podcast may not know who the Lord is. They may never have had anybody prophesy to them. I want you all to know, yes, that is real. I have had that happen to me. Glory be to God. Every time it happened, with the exception of one, and maybe it's still in progression with one situation, everything has come to pass. And then you also talked about how you had to be willing to walk away. I remember when I was faced with a decision of, taking care of my daddy. And, okay, am I going to just, because taking care of my daddy at that time was a full-time job. He had a lot of heart issues. And as a matter of fact, the doctor said, well, where do you want us to discard of your body? Because you're not going to make it. That's what they told him. He was in the hospital, and it wasn't a good hospital where he was at the time. And my sisters and I, we decided to fly out and get him and drive him back to Houston, because Houston has some of the best medical, doctors here in the world. So we decided to do that. So it wasn't a situation where we went and saw everybody. We, of course, had to see our uncles, but we had to get in and get out. It was a mission,
Right.
and his window was so small to make sure that he didn't pass on the way from leaving the hospital. And so being in prayer about it, and, going and talking to my daddy, and, I had to say, Daddy, we got this. We're not going to just let you sit here and die. We're going to take you to another hospital that can help you. My daddy had to make that decision, but we had to pray, and we had to make sure that that's what God wanted us to do.
Right.
Period, point blank. You have windows and doors in life. And when you don't open those doors, and when you don't go through those windows within a certain period of time, it shuts. And all praises be to God. My daddy came here, they worked on him and got him off. He was on like 13 different medications. It was crazy. It was amazing that he was even functioning in his right mind. But everything, worked out, and they were able to get him down to maybe 3 medications at the time. And, I took care of him, but I had to be willing not to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, sometimes you have to go through a process. And when I tell you God took care of me, he took care of me. I have never had to beg for any food to eat.
Right.
Praise God, I already had a home and all of that. But at the same time, whether you have retirement funds, whether you have assets, unless you're in the multi-millions, nobody can afford to have inconsistent income coming in every month because of your expenses.
That's right. Right.
But all praises be to God. He showed me more than once in my life that he will always take care of me. Yeah. So when you said that God told you to leave that job, and see, he wanted to see if you were going to be obedient, right? You see, and you showed up and showed out. And so I say that to say, so now we get a chance to hear a word from Pastor Troy and Pastor Trina, because you both, even though I'm here in Houston, I started watching because everybody was virtual. So that was the best way. So I actually started visiting different churches, and honey, it was like having popcorn and my little cocoa. I was like, oh, y'all getting it. Pastor Trina be preaching. She will just bless your life with her word. Pastor Troy, he preaches, and he'll bless your life with his word. So you have to make sure at the end of the show, we'll make sure they get your information. But before we close out or anything like that, because we just getting started, what are some things that you tend to say to some of our youth who are up and coming, who are struggling like with their identity? We live in a culture where, a lot of times the women are, modifying their bodies, in a way where they can be sex symbols, to be honest. That's like a full-time job now. Like, yes, we will hear stories about some of the, I think it was one of the basketball players, Tristan Thompson, the one that was with Khloe Kardashian, and, he's, having a child with the third mother of his children. This would be his third child, but this is the third mother, and he's not married or hasn't been married, to my understanding. Right. And so with that being said, what do you say to the youth who are watching this? And for some of them, they think that is the way to go. They think to have multiple women and to have children spread out amongst households is the way to go. And the reason why I ask this question is because we're living in a day and age where everybody want to do what they want to do. And, I don't judge people. That's for God to judge. But I do try to help give people information that they need to succeed spiritually, as well as financially, emotionally, and every which way in between. I really believe that there's good and evil, and that there's truth in this world. And I believe that God's word is truth. Okay. And so when I hear some young ladies say, oh, I'm just going to have a baby, and Well, let me talk to you for a minute. You don't understand what that comes along with. Just because you can do something, maybe you don't know the ramifications of what it is that you're saying, but how do you speak truth and light into these young people who are watching these celebrities and thinking, oh, well, he has 3 baby mamas, I'm gonna go and get me 3, or I can just have a child by myself and raise a child by myself, not understanding that there was a blueprint that God gave us. Although he gave us flexibility, although he's allowing us to build our families in a unique manner, there's still a guideline in terms of, how you do that. How do you encourage some of the youth with some of the things they're seeing and watching?
Well, one of the things that's funny is that in the very beginning, when we deal, especially when we do like singles ministry and stuff like that, and we're talking to a lot of the millennials and the teens and a lot of the single women and men, we let them know that number one, you got to know you. Everybody has to survive their Adam season. I'm gonna say it that way. Adam was by himself, alone, created by God, and his first big assignment was to get to know God. Because in getting to know God, he would get to know himself. We are made in the image and likeness of God, according to Genesis 1:26. We're made like God. So he spent a lot of time by himself. When you read the book of Genesis, it says he named all the animals. I'm just trying to think about how many animals there were and how long would they.
Come on, somebody.
That means he had a lot of time with God. And people need to understand God speaks, they call it anthropomorphism. It's like saying that something looks like something or something's like something. Well, God doesn't really have a mouth. We say he is the mouth of God or God speaks, but he doesn't have lips and a tongue. He was thinking that. He was speaking to Adam mentally. And so Adam was receiving information, learning who he was, and had to go through a season of being by himself, being sure of himself, understanding his creation, his purpose, his destiny, understanding that. And a lot of times we spend so much time looking at other people's images that we don't get to know our own. We don't get to know who we were created to be, what we were supposed to be, how we're supposed to live, the dominion. The Bible says he planted a garden eastward and there he placed a man. In other words, I always tell guys when they get in a relationship, Adam had a place to stay. Adam had a job. Adam had wealth and riches that were running through the rivers. He had silver and gold in the hills.
Come on now.
Before I can start looking at having a woman or having a wife or building a relationship, do I have any of that stuff first?
Right.
Young ladies, you're going to date a guy or be around a guy, look for a relationship. Have you built your own identity first?
Right.
Do you have what you need to survive? So a lot of them just, number one, it's an identity crisis. It really is. And we're on social media. We're connected to social media. So we think everybody's our friend. But everybody's not your friend.
Right.
No.
Everybody's not meant to be a part of your life. I'm telling my church even right now, the mindset is this: I need to know how to be friendly and not make everybody my friend.
Come on.
Right. If I understand friendly, that doesn't mean you're my friend. That doesn't mean you get in my close circle. That doesn't mean you can speak into my life and possibly distort the image that God gave me if you aren't assigned to my life. So a lot of the young people that we talk to on a regular basis, we tell them, number one, you got to get to know you and you got to get to know your God. And if you know your God, you know your image. And sometimes that's not, it's across faiths too. Like I have people that I know that are Muslim, people that I know that are Hindu, people that I know that are Buddhist, and they all have a source. They're all connected to a higher power. They don't ascribe to the same God the same way I do, but they get their image and their self-worth from what they believe in.
Right.
Because of that, their mind is structured different. Their life is structured different. They deal with problems differently. So, it's important to be connected to something bigger than yourself. It's important to be connected. For me, is God and Jesus Christ. For somebody else, is praying and going through Ramadan. I'm open to having dialogue with people so they can understand and find who they're supposed to be. If they're meant to be saved, they're meant to be Christian, guess what? God is going to reveal himself over time.
Amen.
Some water, some plant, God gives the increase. So we're trying to help people find the source of who they are and then find out how they're going to live moving forward in the identity that God gave them. And that's across all cultural boundaries. That's across all faiths. We just happen to be preachers who teach the word and the truth of God, and we let the truth and the seeds of the truth fall where they lie so that people can be transformed and changed.
Wow, that was a word right there. And I'm a transition into Pastor Trina. Mm-hmm. So Pastor Trina, now that we know how you guys reach the youth and just empowering them and identifying, you know what, there is a identity crisis. That was key what Pastor Troy said. And I see that daily working with young people, wanting to modify everything to body parts, to just their lifestyle. You have people online, they're just living lives that just are not true. None of it, you know, and just at all costs. And I tell young people, weigh the cost of your words, weigh the cost of your decisions, because, hey, I'm a living testimony that every decision I have ever made, it came with a consequence, good or bad. Yes. So, you know, if I'm trying to help you out here, weigh the cost. Yeah. So, Pastor Trina, when it comes to some of the women and just them, whether they're single mothers, whether they're wives, whether they're daughters, what are some of the things that maybe you notice some of the women in your church are struggling with, and some of the good words, the greatness of the words that you just allow to fall on them, to help cover them, to pull them out of those pits that they get in, whether it's a mindset, whether it's sometimes an actual habit. Unfortunately, we have people who are masking pain as they come out of relationships, or because they're, you know, going through a season of raising children by themselves and they may not be accustomed to that, or because they're going through a period, maybe they lost their job. What are some of the things that you say to encourage the women that you help to cover at the church?
So the women, you said a lot of what a lot of the women are dealing with, whether it's disappointment, discouragement. A lot of them don't know who they are. And so we're trapped in a society where we try to live up to the image of what we see on social media. And so I'm in a place where I'm able, because they've seen my life, and Dr. Troy and I are very transparent. So, you know, anything that we go through and we overcome, God allows us to share it so that they can overcome it. And so when I'm dealing with the ladies, I'm telling them to find out who they are in God. First, find their identity, just like Dr. Troy said. You know, who are you? What were you born for? You know, you were created for more. And so although you've been through those things, you don't have to stay there. You know, we've all been through, you know, all types of trauma and all types of issues, but I've made it through, and I made it through for a reason, so that you can see how God can pull you through what you've been through. You know, I've had situations where I've been abused. I've dealt with all types of stuff. You know, people have done me wrong, and, you know, just made it through hurdles, and God has made me overcome some things. And so as a woman, people look at us and say, well, you're married, you don't understand. You know, I had my moments when I went through bad relationships. I've been there where people have done me dirty. You know, I've been there where guys have cheated on me and did different things. And so sometimes they look at you, and I encourage women, don't look at the outcome and just, you don't know people's story. You know, you see the glory, but you don't know their story. And so everybody has a story. And what it does is it strengthens you so that you can help somebody else. And so you go through that process knowing that God is going to get you through. And so whether it's raising your children by yourself, or you've always wanted a husband, you know, you're looking around and saying, why can't I get married? You know, and I take the moment to enjoy your singleness.
Yes, Lord.
Because a lot of times it's going to take to be married, you know, so it always looks greener on the other side. But if you take the moment to cultivate the grass you have, you take the moment to cultivate what God has given you, you will find out that you have so much more than you ever thought you had. And so I just times to empower them, to let them know that you are great. There's greatness on the inside of you. And so when you take the time to get connected with God, whatever you feel like you're lacking, you have so much more. The devil wants to trick you and make you think that you have deficits. We all have things that we thought we were going to have, or decisions we made that, you know, I wish I didn't do that. But God gives you the opportunity to recover all. He gives you the opportunity to restore you. You know, he gives you the opportunity to be renewed. And so when we just lay it all out and say, God, here am I, you know, with all my problems, with all my issues, God is bigger than anything you've been through. And so when we recognize that, regardless of what your issue is, the devil wants you to think you're the only one, number one. Nobody's going through what you've gone through. But guess what? Ain't nothing new under the sun. And so
come on now.
Been through there, been there, done that, broke the stick you walking on. And so when you recognize that there are people that came out of the same trauma and pain, it makes you recognize that I'm not the only one. I will get out of this. This too shall pass. And then secondly, you recognize that I've been built and born for something more than where I am. So now I need to connect with God to say, God, what is that? What am I missing? What do I need to do? Because you created me. You put me here before I was formed in my mother's womb. You put blessings on the inside of me so that I could go forward. So now connect me with those that are supposed to strengthen me. Connect me, put me in the rooms with those people that's supposed to help me through this journey in this path. And recognize that if it doesn't come the way you think it's supposed to come, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And so the devil wants to trick us.
Come on now.
You don't have that. You don't have the education. You don't have the money. You don't have the skills. Nobody cares about you. All you need is you and God, and God will begin to bring the pieces that you need all together and bring them to you. And so we see the ladies recognizing once they get their identity, they find out who they are in Christ. You know, they stop focusing on what they don't have. They stop focusing on the pain that they've been through, and recognize that guess what? Joy comes in the morning. That pain that I went through was for a purpose. And now that I recognize that I'm connected to God, that purpose is now starting to illuminate. I'm starting to shine. I'm starting to recognize that, you know, I can make it. And I was born for something, and I'm going to be able to help somebody else once I get through this. You know, you recognize that it's not just about you, it's about the people that are coming behind you or that's connected to you, all the people that you're supposed to help, you're supposed to become so that you can help them. And so I love when God starts to transform minds and hearts that the devil had them bound and had them break forth. They begin to break through and see the light of Christ and recognize that, you know, I can do this, you know, it can happen, you know, and so everything we do is a testimony and an example for somebody else. And so we see the women flourish, and we see, you know, them recognizing that I can do it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I'm just so grateful for you both and for your ministries. And I know that you've actually taken some of that wisdom that you had and created a business. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the Queen's business.
Okay.
Today she has her show, her Bijou Fine Fashions,
Bijou,
which is an accessory company. So talk about the business.
Yes.
I've always loved jewelry and fashion since I was a kid. My parents just draped me in jewelry. And so I recognize that the reason why I have such a passion for it, because I know that sometimes people don't always feel good on the inside. And so if you can find something good about you, whether it's your hair, your nails, the clothes, your jewelry, the accessories can add to you until you can get that internal change on the inside. And so I believe that the outside, you know, you got to look good, feel so you can start feeling good. And so since that's been my mindset, I've always loved jewelry. Like you said, I started with another business when I was 16 years old, Tracy Lynn Jewelry. I started selling that. Going out making tons of money. I hired my parents, put them in the business for me.
Come on now.
Yes, and so just, you know, young teen, just being able to do a lot of things. I did hair, just always had the entrepreneurial mindset of how I could make money from something. And so almost 18 years later, I got reintroduced to Tracy Lynn Jewelry and was able to do a multi-level marketing company. We made tons of money. We're so grateful to Dr. Lynn for her business. Yes. And it gave us the mindset of say, guess what? We can do it too. If this is part of our thing, Dr. His thing is always fashion, you know, loves, things like that. So we kind of put it together and God said, do your own thing. And people have been prophesying to me, you're going to have your own jewelry line. When I was doing Tracy Lynn, I was like, you don't know, not happening. Nope, I wasn't receiving it. I ain't speaking out my mouth, but they can read my spirit. My spirit was like, I had some other plans, and we started in 2017, Bijou Fine Fashions, and so it's mainly fashion jewelry, but we also have accessories. Anything fashion is what we love to do, and we have an online presence, Bijou Fine Fashions with an S. .com, and they can go and order things, as well as it has a multi-level marketing piece to it. We want to empower other people to be able to get wealth. And so we have independent distributors that come in and they buy the jewelry wholesale, and they're able to sell the jewelry also so they can make profits for themselves, because it's always bigger than us. And so our that we'll be able to really empower men and women to be able to have a stream of income. We believe you should have multiple streams of income.
That's right.
One that could possibly help somebody get that hair salon, get that daycare, get whatever they want off the ground, and they can use other capital by looking good. So get paid for looking good is basically our mantra.
Good. Awesome. And at the end of the video, I'll let y'all know when that comes. We'll let you plug in everything you need to the phone numbers, the Instagrams, and all of that good stuff. Now, what about you, Pastor Troy?
Well, to be honest with you, I really didn't have the entrepreneurial mindset until I met her. So I was I was okay with just being a professional. I wanted to work on Wall Street. Like I wanted to wear the Brooks Brothers suits and all that kind of stuff. And then before we got ready to leave the job at Vanguard, because we both worked at Vanguard, both professionals, project leads, all that kind of stuff. I mean, making good money. And before we left, the Lord put on my heart to be a real estate agent. So I was like, okay. So we wind up, when we left Vanguard, we left with our real estate licenses. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, we had no real breaks. We sold a lot of real estate, made a lot of money. So what we lost from having a corporate job, we wound up gaining in being entrepreneurs and professionals. There was never a break in our income. We always had money coming in. And then while we were doing the real estate, she found Tracy Lynn Jewelry. We're still doing Tracy Lynn Jewelry. We making tons of money. The very first party we went to, I said, I don't know if this is going to really work because I'm really an entrepreneur guy. She said, listen, take this credit card machine, sit in the corner and swipe cards. That's all I need you to do. At the end of the night, if we don't make no money, I'll get out of this. I said, sure, no problem. So I'm sitting there by the Doritos and the Pepsi, swiping credit cards. And by the time we were done, it was like $1,500 to $1,800 that night with like 5 people in the room. I said, I'm all in.
Come on now.
I'm here for 2 hours. Are you kidding? That's almost $900 an hour. Like, that's ridiculous. I said, that plumbers don't make that kind of money.
Come on now.
I'm in. From that point forward, we started developing the entrepreneurial prowess that we have today. And one of the things that came out of that was that while I was working with her, we were doing a lot of motivational speaking, a lot of speaking beyond just pulpit stuff. And it wound up developing a company that I work on called Born to Lead. And I do a lot of life coaching, business coaching. I've traveled, I've done corporate stuff, just helping people understand how to get the volunteer spirit in a paid employee atmosphere. So if you are volunteering for the job, then that means that's a job you love. And a lot of times people don't know how to create an atmosphere where people who are getting paid volunteer to do work, volunteer to step up. So because of that, I was able to develop that. And I wrote my first book, Born to Lead. We wrote a book called French Kiss. So we have a publishing company. We put out albums and music for our children and for ourselves, praise and worship, and hip hop. We sponsored shows. I mean, just the entrepreneurial piece for us has become a way of life. And the Bible says there's 4 rivers that flow out of the Garden of Eden. And that means that we should all have at least 4 streams of income coming out of our life. And those streams of income should not just be blessing us. We've always wanted to be a blessing to other people. We've given away cars. We plan on giving away some houses as we move forward over the next couple of years. I mean, God has really blessed us, so we want to be a blessing. And entrepreneurship has been the vehicle that's allowed us to do that. So everything I'm wearing today, all the bling I got on today, my wife's business. So I'm proud of her. I'm glad for her to be my boss and me to be a very good employee.
You know, just for you to be a man of God and say, hey, I had to listen to what my wife had to say. Absolutely. You know, when some men understand that we're here to help and some men don't, you know, but for those who are looking for a mate, someone who that compliments them, you know, that they can lean on and trust and just get their ear and say, hey, babe, look, let's try this. Let's just try it and see what happens. You know, it's just a beautiful thing to see you all love one another, to see your love rooted in God. And I just can't wait to see all the amazing things that are coming through for you all and your children. Tell them how many kids y'all have and what are some of your futures some of your plans for the future before we wrap it up.
I wound up having a daughter out of my first marriage, beautiful daughter named Shalise, who also has my grandson, Makai, who's turned out to be a pretty good football player himself. And then we have our son, Troy, and our daughter, Trina, and 3 kids that we love that are gifted and talented in their own right. And we believe that they're going to be a great legacy for what we've done throughout our life. So beautiful. These are incredible. They're incredible.
Well, is there anything that either one of you all wanted to share before we close out and start plugging in your businesses and your Instagram so that people can stay in touch? So they can log on to Sunday service and continue to get some of this inspiration. So they can, you know, just follow through and just watch the transformation that God has consistently brought about in your lives. What else do you have left to share?
So I have a quick story when he was sharing about Born to Lead. And it's for the ladies that when you're connected to a true man of God, You may not understand everything. They may not have all the plans and all the details. But when you're truly connected with a true man of God, it is important to follow their lead. And so when we first got married, I was just had my son, and I was in Westchester. No, I was pregnant with my son, and we were at Westchester, and I was doing like this practicum, and I was doing different things, and he was working at the Vanguard Group. And so every day he would come pick me up with his coworker, and I would be in the car, and I was so tired from school and going and doing the practicum and stuff like that. And he would sit there and literally test me on his job. So first he would tell me all these transactions he was doing, and he would test me and be like, what's this? What's a 301? And what's a 404? And I'll be like, listen, I don't work for Vanguard. Literally every day, to and fro, he would test me, and his coworker would be there. And it was like he was training me. And I'm like, what is wrong with this dude? Like, don't you understand? I don't work for that company. But lo and behold, when I went through all that training, and when he got transferred to another department, he put in a crew referral for me to work in his company. And I literally got the same position that he was working in. And it was a 9-month training program. And he had already trained me. When I walked in that job, I was so stellar. I knew every transaction.
Wow.
I worked that company better than people who had been there for years. I look like a genius because of my man of God. So he's been leading since day one. And I just want to say to some women, you might not understand. I was frustrated. I didn't want to do it. I didn't care about his job, but I did not know it was going to put me in a place where not only would I flourish on that job, I was able to do corporate training. I just went past, like I surpassed so many people because of the anointing and grace that was on his life. And I yielded to what he wanted to train me and teach me. Did not know it was going to set me up for my future, for an amazing.
That was awesome, Pastor Trina. Woo.
Yeah, I'll say this too.
That was important.
I'll
go ahead. I'm gonna let you speak, Pastor Troy, and then I'm gonna have to piggyback off what she said. But go ahead.
Our dream. One of the things that we've learned together is that partnership is key.
Absolutely.
And Pastor Trina left college after getting pregnant with Troy. She had been out of school for almost 10 years. And I would always say, you going back, you're going to graduate. You're going back. She said, I'm not going back. We pastoring. We got this church. She said, I'm good where I'm at. I said, no. Your parents paid all that money for you to go to college. You worked really hard to get your degree. You're right there. You got to go back. And I'm not giving up on that dream. Even if you give up on that dream, I'm not giving up on that dream. Who would have thought 10 years later, we drive up to Westchester. We stand at the window at the bursar's office. And they said, well, how many classes do you take? How many classes do you need? And they looked, they said, girl, you only need 2 classes to graduate.
Come on.
We're gonna go ahead. I said, well, let's get this checkbook out. Let's pay for these classes right now. She's like, boy, I ain't trying to go back to school. I said, no, you go back to school right now. And we cut the check, gave the check to the school. She started her classes and then found out, what was the one of the classes they wanted to take? Public speaking. I was like, please, you gotta be kidding me. She's been doing this for the last 10 years. And they wind up letting her waive in that class. So she only had 1 class to graduate with her bachelor's degree. And she said to me at the time, she said, I didn't realize how bad I wanted to walk the stage until I walked the stage. Right. And I'm just happy that you kept pushing me. But it wasn't me pushing her. It was, I believed in her dream. And I wanted to see her dream come to pass. And partnership is always about, what are you willing to sacrifice to see the other person's dream come true? And if I was going to say anything to close out for me would be, no matter if you're married, if you're just connected to somebody, make sure that you got somebody else's dream on your mind. Make sure you help assist somebody else to see their dream come to pass. Because if you do that, God will always make your dreams come true. If you try to help other people see their dreams materialize.
Wow. When I tell y'all are just blessing everybody today, I done lost track of thought. Oh my God, it's too much for me to keep up with. Because first of all, Pastor Trina was saying something about, okay, I know what it was. Pastor Trina was saying, because I got to get back to what you said, but Pastor Trina, she was saying that it was important to follow your man's lead. I had said something on one of my previous podcasts with my god sister, Mina, and I was talking about that with one of my friends, my dear, dear friend. I don't want to give away which friend it was, so I'll just say it, my dear, dear friend. And she didn't understand why I said you had to put your husband first, because we were having a conversation and, you know, I didn't go into great detail, but I have watched my grandparents' marriage. I've never been married, so I would never advise anyone, as a married wife would. But I do know the blueprint as it pertains to God's word, and I did have some great examples, and that's all that I can go by. And so what I was trying to convey is that it's not that you put your husband consistently for yourself. That wasn't what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say, when you put your husband first, if every day a wife is waking up and she's saying, okay, what does my husband need today? And if every day a husband is waking up, he's saying, okay, what does my wife want today?
Absolutely.
Then there's a happy household, because he's happy, she's happy, right? And when you have children, you cannot put your children consistently before the marriage. This is why the husband and the wife come together as one before the children come. And I had children out of wedlock, so I get it, but I still try and teach people the right way, because I also know the consequences of my actions that some people may not know. They think it's all glorious games and goodies, but there's consequences sooner or later that your children will have to face in this world without having a father or without having a mother, right? So we understand why God has a blueprint for us to follow. And so with that being said, all I was trying to say is that you can't put your children consistently before your husband, because, if you do that, the kids will get in between the marriage. They'll be running to mommy. Hey, well, mommy, can I have this? Well, yeah, baby, because, by nature, we're nurturers. We'll baby our husbands at times, love on them and just pat them on the back and give them what they need. So at the end of the day, you don't want your children coming in between that foundation. And you want to make sure that you leave that place in your life to let your husband know, hey, baby, you're my number one. And again, because I had elders, this is why I'm knowledgeable, because I had conversations with my grandmother about marriage. Things that she taught me is just like a whole nother podcast. Okay. So that's what I was trying to say. So I wanted to piggyback off of Sister Pastor Trina here and let her know, I agree. Sometimes you have to follow your man's lead. He had that vision. He knew what he was talking about. He knew what he was doing. And a lot of times men move differently than women.
Yes.
They just do. They talk differently. They observe things differently. And it's nothing like being in the presence of a man that has your back, and you trust him. So when he say, well, babe, look, what were those numbers, Trina? Run those numbers by me. And you like, girl, I don't have time for this today, but it paid off in the end, because it put you in a position that you would not have been in if you did not follow that man's lead. So absolutely, I get it. And then finally, Pastor Troy, you were saying something about be with someone and believe in their dreams. And I truly and honestly believe that one of the reasons why I'm blessed is that because I have helped people to fulfill their dreams, to help them build their dreams, to see it, come to life. It is nothing like that. And so when you said that resonated with me, because it's important for us to help people live their dreams. And, Pastor Troy and Pastor Trina, y'all did an excellent job catching each other on that hook. God just knew how to bring y'all together for the purpose and plan in your lives into his glory. So I'm just so glad that y'all could join us today. I want you both to just share your contact information, and then we'll be wrapping it up. Thank you so much for joining us on the Inspiration Incubator. Just to see you all preaching and teaching God's word, it's just a blessing. Y'all have me in there checking it out from Sunday to Sunday in between my own church. So y'all have somebody there and me just coming along and making sure that I'm paying attention to what y'all have going on. But we need the contact information. We need the Instagrams and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. You want to go first?
So my Instagram is Pastor Trina Davis. I'm on Facebook as Trina Davis. And my website is pastortrinadavis.com. And you can go there and find stuff about motivation. I'm a Born to Lead coach. Of course, a pastor. Our church is New Life Kingdom Center. And the website for our church is www.newlifekingdomcenter.com. Center is CENTRE.com. And that's the website for our church for anything that you may need. And then I have Bajou, which is Bajou Fine Fashions with an S.com. And you can go there and order product, as well as schedule an appointment if you would like to come to our local headquarters, which is in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. And you can come and just get the VIP treatment and shop in our store.
Mine's on Facebook is Troy Davis, because I want all of my high school friends to be able to find me. So I ain't put Doctor out there. I ain't put all my friends to be able to find me under Troy Davis. So I'm Troy Davis on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Pastor Troy B2L, Born to Lead. Pastor Troy B2L on Instagram and on Twitter. You're looking for me on those two platforms. And then my website for Born to Lead is www.pastortroydavis.com. www.pastortroydavis.com.
Awesome.
Coach.
Thank you both for sharing, for blessing everyone today. Anyone, if you need to, seek either one of them for some spiritual advice and guidance, some nurturement in that area, please reach out to them as soon as possible to get what you need, because the sermons are lit, as the young people say, and we truly enjoy them. Thank you both for being with us today, and thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've been incredible. Thank you so much.